Hello, Battletech enthusiasts. This is going to be a discussion of LRM mechs. LRM mechs, the purpose of the LRM mechs is obvious. You indirect fire into your opponents, but they will have less damage per second or DPS than like PPCs and things like that also have long range. But the advantage they have is the indirect fire. And when you use a mech or a tank for indirect fire, it also means that it's unlikely that any of its other weapons or armor are relevant, because you're going to be hiding behind mountains or hills. That means LRM mechs come in a couple different flavors. There's flavor one, like the grasshopper, that just kind of has some trivial LRM on it. That just gives it something to do while it's closing in for the brawling that it's supposed to do. Another kind of LRM mech is the archer or the catapults. Those have much heftier LRMs, but they also have a significant number of close-in weapons with their medium lasers and other weapons, depending on what variants you have. But the thing is, if you use them for indirect fire, then all that battle value that's been spent on their armor and their secondary weapons, which are their primary weapons if you close in on them, that's wasted. So it just kind of does. So in the best case scenario, those mechs never get engaged and they never use those weapons. So in the best case scenario, that battle value that for those parts of those mechs is wasted. So that comes to the third class of LRM mech. This includes tanks too, some tanks. That's the longbow. The longbow and the LRM carrier specifically are special in that they're very defenseless at close range, and the LRM carrier is almost literally has no ability to do anything at close range, and they have fairly weak armor on their critical parts. The LRM carrier just as a whole doesn't have much armor, whereas the longbow just has weak armor. I mean, it may have armor for the rest of its body, but its arms are weak, and that's where all its weapons are. So they basically have all their battle value set up in these missile launchers, and they are not spending battle value so much on other parts, which makes them like the third class of LRM carrier or LRM mech. That is heavily invested and almost defenseless. So those need a secondary mech or defenses to protect them. Whereas the first class of LRM mech, like the grasshopper, is the brawler and goes in and it just accidentally has an LRM on the side. The second class of LRM mech, like the catapult or the archer, they have some ability to defend themselves at close range, so their LRM capability, which is significant, is kind of a mix. And then finally that third class is, again, the extreme case where they have no defenses at all and require other mechs or tanks to support them. That's basically that kind. So for LRM carriers, you would team them up with some really tough short-range tank, like maybe a demolisher, or if you are playing lighter mechs, maybe tanks, you might do bulldogs or some other, or maybe ontos. Except the demolisher has the advantage that it has two AC-20s, and if it hits with those, any mech, even an assault mech, is afraid. Whereas those other mechs, like the ontos, it has a bunch of medium lasers, but it'll just kind of pepper you with those medium lasers. It's not going to necessarily focus all those in one spot, so it's not going to be that frightening to to an assault mech, though it may be devastating to light and medium mechs. So something like the Ontos is okay, but it's not as good a guard for LRM carriers as a Demolisher. And the same thing goes with the longbow. The longbow also needs a guard, and you might have like a Warhammer guard your longbow, or you might even have Demolishers guard your longbow, except the Demolisher will tend to get stuck if it gets motive hits. So you may want mechs to guard mechs, because mechs tend to have more mobility, and tanks to guard tanks. So maybe guard your longbow with a Warhammer, and guard your LRM carriers with Demolishers.
I hope you enjoyed this vlog. Please hit subscribe and enable notifications so you'll know when I upload a new video.